Right, what follows is an analysis of Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. And I'd like you to turn to page 51, please, of your anthologies. And I'm going to read the first section to you, because I know you haven't read it yourself. The novella, yes, you may giggle. The novella, Heart of Darkness, first published in 1899, is yet another tale within a tale, or a framed narrative. Now, that's important. Please take note of that, because we know how many of the other texts fall into that category as well. The first narrator, you may highlight this too if you wish. The first narrator, very much like the narrator in The Turn of the Screw, very early changes place with a fellow called Marlowe, a fellow sailor and a seasoned storyteller who tells the story of an escapade into the very heart of darkness to reach a man, Kurtz, who left a fiancée in Europe to go upriver, probably the Congo, to station himself at an outpost to procure ivory for his employers. Right. While there, Kurtz establishes himself as an all-powerful warlord and chieftain. Now, that's interesting compared to the way in which his wife describes him in the last excerpt. The description that she gives him does not fit at all as a warlord and a chieftain. Okay, so you can highlight those two words. Maintaining his authority by perpetrating unspeakable acts of cruelty on his subjects, and I'll elaborate now as to what those are. Those who trade with him and enemies alike. Marlowe is sent to Africa to make contact with Kurtz and recall him, right, tell him to come back to England, but he is found to be riddled with malaria and fails to make the trip home. All right, now, yes, some people are going, yay, all right, there's a bit dark, okay, okay. Listen to yourselves, all right, because we need to decide if Kurtz gets his just desserts at the end of the novel and at the end of these excerpts that you have read. Does he deserve to die in the fashion that he does? All right? And then we need to look as well, one of the questions addresses what his wife's response is to his demise. Right, and we'll go a little bit further into that. So I'd like you to turn now to page 40 of your anthology, not your anthology, your study guide, page 40 of your study guide. Yeah. Demise. Demise. D-E-M-I-S-E. Demise refers to your death. Your demise is your death. In other words, what brings your manner of death. Or it can mean death itself, your demise. D-E-M-I-S-E. Okay. Right, the first question on page 40 asks us, a Russian who is a wanderer and has been staying at the inner station comes on board when they arrive there. He is asked by Marlowe if he did not talk with Kurtz. Quote his reply to Marlowe's question. Right. Question 1 on page 40. If you'll turn, on page 51, just a little bit lower down, just highlight right at the bottom, they are simple people, he added, right over the page. And the other thing I want you to highlight is on page 52, where it says, you don't talk with that man, you listen to him, he exclaimed with severe exultation. Right, you don't talk with that man, you listen to him. What does that suggest about him? His tyrannical nature, right? The fact that he's a tyrant, that they don't question him, they just follow instructions. He's closed-minded, the fact that they are subordinate to him, right? And we need to discuss as well, and I want you to start thinking about if you would classify Kurtz as a sociopath. Right, go back to those definitions of psychopaths and sociopaths and decide which category you would place him in. Okay, question, yes?
Ma'am, where's the quote on page 51?
Page 51 is right at the bottom, right at the bottom. Okay, over there. They're simple people. Okay, and I'm going to elaborate there what I mean by that now. Okay. You'll notice there I've highlighted another quote a little bit higher up on page 51. He is up there, he replied, with a toss of the head up the hill and becoming gloomy all of a sudden. Why would this guy who is pointing out where Kurtz is to Marlowe become gloomy all of a sudden? Okay, because of the way in which Kurtz has influenced everyone and the darkness that now presides in this area. Okay, because of the greed around acquiring the ivory. Okay, and he takes it a step further. He becomes all-powerful and godlike, as we established just now. His face was like the autumn sky, overcast one moment and bright the next. So in other words, beautifully written, hey, okay. So there, that metaphor, not metaphor, simile, okay, notice it's a simile, you would be able to use that as a substantiation in your essay as well. Okay. All right. Then turn for me, please, back to your study guide, question 2. At the end of this section, on page 53, they say, the Russian explains that the natives do not want Kurtz to leave. He also says Kurtz has enlarged his mind. What does this tell you about the Russians' relationship to Kurtz? Now, the answer to that is on page 53. And you'll see that I've indicated question 2. Of course, you're not writing in anything, are you? You're just highlighting. All right. So you're not allowed to write question 2, question 3 as I have. Don't write that in your anthologies, okay? Right. So please use that quotation where it says, they don't want him to go. Don't they? Don't they? I said curiously. He nodded a nod full of mystery and wisdom. I tell you, he cried, this man has enlarged my mind. Okay, and that's the quotation in question 2. He opened his arms wide, staring at me with his little blue eyes that were perfectly round. Okay, what does it tell you about the relationship then between this Russian and Kurtz? Again, he is subordinate to him. He's almost worshipping Kurtz, okay? He doesn't therefore question what he does. So when Kurtz becomes excessively cruel and starts to plunder and kill and destroy, he doesn't question it because he has put Kurtz, as have all the other people there in the Congo, put Kurtz on a pedestal. And we know what happens when you do that. Okay, disaster, because you are now giving him all the power. So it's again an imbalanced system, right, which we've discussed before in class. Okay, right, the next question, question 3. Marlowe, the narrator, refers to the Russian as one wearing motley. Okay, what is the meaning of motley, and who would often wear motley clothing? Right, do you remember the story Hop Frog? Who was Hop Frog? He was a jester. Now, and often in Shakespearean plays, Shakespeare refers to what motley crew is this? I think that comes from Romeo and Juliet. Okay, what motley crew is this? In other words, dressed like clowns. Okay, jester-like in their dress. Now, I'm going to give you 3 definitions. Okay, motley was actually a woolen fabric. A woolen fabric of mixed colors. So almost, I suppose today we would refer to it as a tartan, okay? But it wasn't necessarily like a tartan, but a tartan in today's equivalent would be the same. So it's a woolen fabric of mixed colors that was produced in England between the 14th and the 17th century. Okay. The other way in which you can interpret this is, as we mentioned, it's a characteristic dress or costume of the professional fool, which we also call the jester, the court jester. Okay. So where this definition is concerned, and this meaning in the context of this particular passage, all it means is that what he was wearing was a mixture of incongruous elements. So he was dressed very strangely in varying colors, and he looked motley. In other words, not normal. Okay, so very brightly colored and mixed garish colors, and it was out of place, almost out of place. Okay, question, yes?
What does incongruous mean?
Incongruous means nothing matches. Nothing matches. Incongruous, it doesn't go together. Incongruous, I-N-C-O-N-G-R-U-O-U-S. Incongruous. Incongruous. I-N-C-O-N-G-R-U-O-U-S. I-N-C-O-N-G-R-U-O-U-S. Incongruous. So, incongruous elements, in other words, things that don't match. They are disparate. Okay? They do not match. All right. And I'm going to conclude that clip here.